Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Venue Coach. In today's episode, I actually wanted to talk about something that I'm quite passionate about. So, this is the importance of good communication, and it doesn't just mean like talking with your brides or dealing with a vendor. While it includes those things, I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper into what I mean and how every step of the way proper communication, good communication can really impact your business. And so let's just dive right in on that. So, the first thing is the way we communicate isn't just verbal. In the digital space, as far as anybody is looking for you, it's how you present yourself online. So it could be how you are viewed on a Google search. It could be how your ads appear. It can be how your website looks. And so a lot of the ways that you're communicating to your prospective clients and your prospective couples can attract or detract people from working with you. And so look at everything. It's not just do I have a website? It's do I have a website that's functional? Does it make sense? Are they getting lost on the website? Are they having to dig around and try and find out how to reach you? Is your phone number on Google Maps? Right? So it's little things like that you're communicating. And how you communicate there starts the whole process, right? So communication starts once they start interacting with you. From there, how do they fill out the form? Have you actually gone through and filled out the form and seen how that whole process works? How long do you take to respond? Right? Is it we'll get back to you within 24 hours, and even that you can't seem to keep 24 hours. It might be 26 or 48 or whatever. And so how you're following up also matters. One thing that's really interesting is the faster you follow up, the more likely you are to get a tour. And that is really a good correlation, very strong correlation. The faster you follow up shows that you care. And that's a communication, right? So you're communicating on your website, or you're communicating on Google or on Facebook, and then you're communicating on your website, and then you communicate once they give you their information. So everything before they give you the information should be guiding them towards filling out the form, right? So that whole process. And how you work through that process is sending signals to the prospective couples on whether or not they should even work with you, right? And then once they fill out the form and say, yeah, I'd like to learn more, then how you communicate from there is communication that leads them to a tour. And so one thing I always like to say is make sure the main thing is the main thing. So there are stages, right? So the first stage is get them to give you contact information. Well, first is get them to your website. Then it's get them to fill out a contact form and reach out to you or say, hey, please contact me. Then it's getting them out to the actual venue. So everything after they fill out the form is getting them to that tour. So how you communicate from there will increase or decrease the likelihood of that happening. One thing that we've seen at our venues is that we actually have a 80% show rate for all of our tours. And so if we get 20 tours in a month, we know that 16%, did I do my math right? 16 of them, not percent, 16 of them are going to show. And that just is basic math. So what we try to do is either we work to maintain that 80%. We've seen it go a little bit higher. We've seen it be a little bit lower, but it averages out. And we actually follow up promptly with our leads. So we follow up within 10 minutes of able. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes you're on a tour. Sometimes you're at an event. And sometimes it's midnight. But if you're following up as fast as you can, then you're more likely to get the tour. So the other thing is how you communicate there. Do you make them jump through hoops and unnecessarily to get on your calendar? So we have a pretty easy calendar. They can schedule it themselves, or we can just set it fairly simply and quickly for them if that's where the conversation leads. The biggest thing that we try to do with our couples is communicate that we are there for them, that we're going to take care of them. We communicate that we are flexible and that we are willing to help their one big day. Hopefully it's the only time they're getting married. We are communicating, or we try to communicate, that we are going to help their big day be as special and as stress free as possible. And so our communication is that's what we're talking about. So the goal that we have is to relay that. So it's not just the words that you're saying, it's how you're saying them. And once they are scheduled for the tour, the next thing is, how do I get them to show up? So it's follow up texts and making sure that there's still like reminder texts and things like that to get them to confirm and say, yeah, I'm going to be there. So that way you're not wasting your time, and they're not wasting your time. So the last one is, when you're on the tour, how are you communicating? I shouldn't say last. That's the last step pre-booking on how to communicate. And so, well, let me back up. There's one more step after the actual tour, and that's the follow-up if they don't book on the spot. But when you're on the tour, how are you communicating? Are you driving home that you're going to take care of them? That they're going to be in good hands? These couples have never been married. They don't know what they're doing. You are the expert. So are you communicating that? Are you letting them know that you're the expert, that you do dozens or hundreds of weddings a year, and that you have all the good contacts, and that you're going to take care of them, that you're just going to walk them through, you're going to hold their hand? Even if it's not, hold their hand is a loose term, right? You don't have to become their wedding planner, but be helpful. My goodness, is it that hard to do? So that's what you're communicating. Are you going to be there for them? And really, that's the essence of the whole business, is being there, at least in my opinion, in my estimation. I've seen some venue owners that have lost sight of who they're serving. Like, we're in a service industry, right? So we are serving couples that are getting married, and we're there to help make sure that their day is magical. And I think that some of my fellow venue owners have lost sight of that. And so we're really passionate about taking care of our couples. So we try to communicate that on our tours. And then after the tour, how are we communicating to follow up? About 5 days is all it takes after a tour for a couple to book. And so if you're not following up immediately after the tour and being helpful, sending Pinterest boards and sending guides, or even, hey, we have whatever, throw in, insert random thing that you have, or hey, let's come together, and I just love working with you guys, I want to make this a thing, whatever it is. If you're not following up after the tour, if you're just waiting for them to come back to you, they're not going to. Most of the time, they're not. You have to be proactive and follow up. You have to show them that you actually are interested in them, and you have to actually care, right? If you're just waiting for them to come back to you, do you actually care about your business? Do you care about the couple? If you know that you provide a better service than anybody else around, why aren't you following up with them and letting them know that? If you really think that your venue is the best around, which you should, then you gotta act like that's true, right? And so then once they book, now how do we communicate? It's taking care of them, really. It's let's not make mountains out of anthills, and take care of your couples. Like, let them know that you're there for them. Give them resources. Give them a hand. Sometimes, if you need to follow up with a vendor because they're being difficult for the couple, do it. It's not that complicated. You have a good relationship, and these vendors sometimes also lose sight of who they're serving, right? We're all supposed to be a big team that's taking care of the couples, and sometimes the vendors will lose sight of that as well. And that's not how we do it. And then they'll try and back out of things in their contract, or they'll, they just try to cut corners and things like that. But who do they continue to work with? Is it that one couple that they book on a random Saturday during the year, or is it the wedding venue that they keep coming out to, right? And what happens if that relationship is dirtied, right? What happens if that relationship doesn't go well? So communicating with your vendors as well and making sure that everybody's on the same page, right? What is the goal? The goal is to have every vendor come together in your venue and create this magical experience for your couples and their guests, and do it every weekend and sometimes during the week, right? So that's really what we want to communicate, and we want to make sure that that expectation is clear for our vendors, and we want to make sure that that expectation is clear and relayed to our couples. And if we do that, then we're able to all come together and actually achieve the goal. And then you can start getting really good reviews regularly. And that's the end, right? That's the end of the communication, as far as I can see it, is following up with a review or getting a review from your couples, and from any of their guests for that matter. And then afterwards, it's just staying pleasant with them. So on their 1 year anniversary, are you sending a happy anniversary? Are you giving them a shout out? Are you, celebrating them? Right? I talk with a lot of venue owners, and they want to celebrate with the couples. Well, does the celebration have to stop after they leave your doors? It's not very hard to set a reminder to just send a happy anniversary text to a couple. So it's all these little things that just add up to one thing that equals good communication. And I just know that if you bring all those things together and you remember what the point is. Are you in business? Do you want to make money? Absolutely. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't lose sight of the business goal, but in order to do that, in order to have a good business as a wedding venue owner, you have to take care of your couples. And if you aren't willing to do that, then why are you in the business? Why are you doing it? And that's my challenge is if you find that you're kind of drifting away from that, you're starting to be annoyed with every single couple that comes through your door because they have so many requirements and they just are so needy and all this and that and the other. Yeah, it's their one big day. They're paying you thousands of dollars. They're paying tens of thousands of dollars for their wedding. Wouldn't you, if you were paying tens of thousands of dollars for something, also have some good expectations? And not just tens of thousands of dollars, but tens of thousands of dollars for one night. Wouldn't you have some expectations there? Right? Let's not, because we see it so often, we kind of become numb to it. It's kind of like every wedding party plays almost the exact same playlist, right, with some minor variations, and then you start hearing the same song over and over and over again. All of the group dances, all the Cupid shuffles or Cupid slides, or I can't even remember the stupid name, but like all of those songs, right? And they all blend together, and you're like, oh, they're playing this song again. But remember, that's their wedding. They don't jam to that playlist every day or every weekend. It's one time. Or maybe they go to a friend's wedding 6 months later or a year later or whatever, and then they hear it again, but it's not like back to back to back like it is for us. And so it's easy to become jaded, but you also communicate that. If if you start to feel that way, you start to have some resentment towards your clients who are paying you thousands of dollars, then you're going to start communicating that, and it'll be nonverbal, but people will pick up on it. And so if you're starting to drift down that road and starting to feel that way, reflect on that and see if you can't come back to being excited for the couples and actually wanting to take care of them. And if you're just starting out, then know that that's a possibility that you can drift into if you aren't careful. And so you have to do the little things right every day in order to make this successful. And it's not like it's that complicated to just be pleasant to your customers who are paying you money. And really, like, that's what it's all about. And how you show up in one thing is how you show up for everything, right? So if you follow up promptly on a lead, how quickly are you going to follow up when you have somebody who's just paid you $10,000 or $5,000 or $20,000? And how quickly do you follow up with them? I bet you it's pretty quickly, right? If you're willing to follow up quickly before they give you money, then I hope that you'd be willing to follow up quickly after they give you money, right? And so you're sending little signals of how well you're going to take care of people. So uh, that's really the heart of this: is keep the main thing, which is don't lose sight of what you're trying to accomplish with the communication, because we're not just talking with them because we're trying to make friends and go hang out later and all this. We're talking with them because we're trying to gain their business and we're trying to work our business, right? And so it's not just talking to talk, it's how we communicate to lead them to the natural conclusion, which is they want to work with us and spend their money with us, right? And so we keep the main thing, and then we remember that speed of response is better. The faster you are, the more impressive you will seem, and the more business that you'll get. I mean, it really is that simple. And so it is something that this is something that's so simple to do that you can implement this immediately. And if you do, you'll start to see real results come in rather quickly. And so I just know that that's true because we've seen it in our business. So I know that it can be a little bit. I've seen it start to creep in a little bit at sometimes where this person's being so needy or so whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. If you start having those thoughts, they're gonna pick up on it. So good communication. Are you relaying the actual value that you're providing, which is taking care of them? Are you communicating that? Ask yourself that question, and hopefully the answer is yes. And if there's some room for improvement, then you know what to work on. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this gives you somewhere to focus and some thought to, or some thoughts for you that you can. Wait, I'm saying this all wrong. But anyways, I hope it's food for thought, and I hope it helps you improve your venue. If you found this video useful, let me know. Please subscribe and stay tuned for the next one.